Hello and welcome to this video tutorial covering how to convert HTML tags into HTML5 tags. We're going to be looking at two files today, actually three files. A before HTML5 conversion, so we're going to look at the class template before I convert it over to HTML5, and I'm also going to show you the style sheet that's associated with both the before and after HTML pages that I'm going to be working with. Now, one thing I want to point out is that in Chapter 10 of your textbook, there's a lot of great information on HTML5, including a lot of details about a lot of the HTML5 tags. I would suggest that after watching this video that you take a read at Chapter 10 and give it a study. The other thing I want to point out is the change or making changes from HTML tags to HTML5 tags is really simple. So don't be afraid. It's a lot easier than you think it is, and I'm gonna show you that. The code structure of your page doesn't really change. Only a few of the tags in your page will change, and I'll show you that. And HTML5 makes web pages more standard throughout the industry. A lot of browsers are now supporting HTML5, and it's going to be, in the work that you do going forward, if you do decide to do more work on the web, you'll probably want to start off with HTML5, as most browsers now support it. Now, they don't support all HTML5 elements or tags that we're going to cover. In fact, I'm going to mention some issues with some of those later on in the video. Just want to bring that to your attention that this is an emerging standard, and it's very popular, and it's going mainstream. And the other thing I want to talk about is HTML5 adds a lot of new capabilities to the web coding experience. And with that, let's take a look at my screen here, which you've probably been looking at while I've been talking. But now let's take a look. On the left-hand side here, in the left side of my page, I have what I call my HTML page before I've updated it to HTML5. And you're going to be really familiar with it because it's based on the CTEC 122 class template, right? We have a page wrapper, we have a header. Inside the header, we have a div for the nav, and then we have a div that's ID'd with sidebar and content and footer. I think this looks pretty familiar, wouldn't you agree? Yeah, I thought so. On the right-hand side, we have a converted version of the same template, right? The same file. And let me scroll to page wrapper on the right, and I'll scroll to page wrapper on the left. Now, let's take a look at what you know is div ID header. It's a div that has an ID of header. Now, HTML5, let me just change this here a little bit. HTML5 gives us a tag name now named header. Because guess what? Almost every web page has a header. So instead of creating a div and assigning it an ID, right, of header, now they have a tag. And notice that I just replaced now the div ID header with this header tag and its associated closing header tag right there. And no longer do I have a div with an ID of header or a closing div tag. Again, I have a header with a closing header tag. Now let's look at the next thing. Inside the header, there's a nav. Well, guess what? Most websites have a navigator inside the header. So can you guess what's going to happen here? There's actually an HTML tag called nav and a closing nav tag. And note that, again, we're just using tags now, not divs anymore. This is all HTML5. Let's scroll down. Let's go to the sidebar here and what's called a side on the right. Now on the left, we have a div with an ID of sidebar, and on the right, we have this HTML5 tag called a side and a closing it's hard to pronounce, and also a closing aside. Okay, so we have an opening aside tag and a closing aside tag, and those replace the sidebar, right, and the closing div over here. Now, I didn't do one for the content. There are other tags in HTML5, but you can save those for studying on your own. The other one I want to show you, okay, is footer. Footer. So on the left, right, we have the div ID footer, which you're all familiar with by now, and the closing div. And on the right, we have a new HTML5 tag called footer and a closing footer. Okay, so you all see that? Here's the old way to do it with HTML tags using divs and IDs. And on the right, we're using these new HTML5 tags, header, nav, aside, footer. Okay. Now I want to show you the CSS. Both these HTML documents are using the same CSS. Now, let's scroll down here and we see pound header. That's what we used for the ID header of the div header. And now we have this comma header, right? So this selector here is actually an HTML element. So we could just give it its name. So I can put pound header, comma header, and it's saying apply these style rules, these property and value pairs to pound header, right, or header, or both, right? So pound header, or to both of them, whatever it finds in your markup. Same thing with the nav, right? So previously our CSS just had pound nav and then the curly braces and the style rules, right? But now we're putting pound nav, comma nav, because that's the element name. And just one more, actually a couple more. So here we'll have pound nav img, right? It's saying any image in this thing that has an ID of nav, comma, now we're saying any image inside of this nav element, right? So it's the same thing, okay? One more. Same thing with the sidebar and aside, right? Pound sidebar is what we had. Now, why am I keeping both of these? Because some of your pages, right, may use the old HTML5 tags while your order page, right, may contain the HTML5 tags. A lot of students find it easier just to go in and change all of the old divs that they had for header, nav, sidebar, and footer, and they just go with the HTML5 tags, and that's totally cool, okay? Same thing down here, pound sidebar, aside li, okay? Actually, this is probably a little mistake I made here. This should be pound sidebar li and aside li. Just wanted to point that out. And pound footer and footer, same thing. There you go. Nav ul, footer ul. Just showing you the new way to do it with HTML5 tags. So I think you all get that. Do you all? Okay? It's quite easy. In fact, there's also a PDF you'll find in this Canvas unit where you'll find this video. Now let's take a look at a couple of other things here. Let me just pull up my notes, because I do use notes when I do these videos. And the thing I want to show you is, first let me show you in Chrome here. Let me flip over to Chrome. And notice that we have a spinner control here, right? I call it a spinner control. I don't know what you may call it, but I can click on these up and down arrows, right, to show you to allow the user to pick a number between, obviously this is 10 was the max and 1 is the minimum, right? So I just wanted to show you that. So let's go look at the markup. Let's go find, right, that particular control in my form here. Let's look at it. It's going to be HTML5, so it's going to be on the right. Let me just pull this over here so we can see it. Let's find the input control. So here it says quantity. Do you see this line 38, right? There is a line there where it says input type equals number. This is an HTML5 specific thing here. It's got an input type number, it's got a name of quantity, and name is the thing that's going to be sent to the server. It has an attribute value min of 1 and a max of 10. So again, this new control this spinner control, I like to call it that, with this type of number will allow a person to pick a number between 1 and 10. Okay? Everyone good with that? Let's flip back over to Chrome. One thing I want to say, as I mentioned earlier, that I did mention earlier, is that some of these controls do not work in all browsers. And that's the risk that, we currently run, going write all of our HTML to HTML5 specifications. Because I know for a fact that this calendar control right here that I'm showing you, this calendar control, there it goes. Oof. It doesn't work in Apple Safari and Mozilla Firefox, but it does work in Chrome. So you wouldn't want to do this if you know that people using the web pages that you're designing are not using Chrome. So there's the calendar, right? So let me go back into my markup, right, and show you that. So here we have an input type right here on line 37. We have an input type equals date. Right, so that's an HTML5. That's a new type that we allow in HTML5. It's got a name of order date, and that's going to be sent to the server along with the date that somebody selects. Okay, so that's the input type equals date. The other one is another one here called input type equals email, right, and name equals email, and you'll be able to see that. I'll flip back into Chrome here, and this is going to expect, right, a field value that knows how to deal with email addresses. Okay, so that's it. I think I covered everything I wanted to with HTML5. If you have any questions, post them on the student questions forum in Canvas. Write your instructor, and take a look also at the tutorial document for HTML5, converting HTML tags to HTML5 tags. Again, it's in the same unit that you find this video. Hey, thanks for watching these videos. If you have any feedback on them, or you'd like to see other content developed, for CTEC 122 for videos, let your instructor know. Have a great day.